The FBI has just released the first of what is expected to be several documents related to its investigations into the 9/11 terrorist attacks and the suspected support of the Saudi government for the hijackers following an executive order by President Joe Biden. Joining me now is Tim Froelich. He survived the 9/11 attacks from inside the South Tower. Also with us is Terry Strada. She's the national chair of 9/11 Families and Survivors United for Justice Against Terrorism. She lost her husband in the attacks. Let me just first say, I know this has been an emotional weekend. I know this is a difficult time, and I wanted to thank you both for coming in to talk about this based on what we just went through. And Tim, let me start with you here. These documents that were released, the significance of what we're seeing now.
The significance is finally, after 20 years, what we're going to see, I believe, and from what I've been told, is that these documents clearly cover and show complicity by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in those evil attacks. We're certainly grateful for the executive order that the president gave us, and we're looking forward to more of the documents coming out as the Operation Encore documents as we get into it. But in essence, the jig is up concerning Saudi Arabia and their complicity here. It's pretty clear that they are behind these attacks, and this has been covered up for a very long time.
The documents don't go as far as to say what you were saying here. What they do suggest is that there are two people, one of whom had consular ties in Los Angeles, another whom was tied to intelligence, whose stories aren't what they initially said they were back in 2001 in the first interviews. And they seem to have much more direct contact, Terry, with the hijackers themselves. I want to read you a statement from the Saudi government based on this release. This comes from the Saudi foreign minister. "We have for over a decade advocated the release of any documents related to that tragic day in the full confidence that the reveal of any data in those documents will completely show that there was no involvement of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in any way." Terry, your reaction?
Well, that's just a flat out lie. If they really want everything to be out in the open, then they could go to the court today and ask for the protective order to be lifted that they insisted be on this case. And that is why the media has not been able to report on it. That is why we have not been able to even talk to our own lawyers about what goes on in the courtroom in the evidence against the kingdom. And I'd like to say that the report that just came out is explosive. There is now at least 8 Saudi government officials with extremist views who were working with al-Qaeda terrorist operatives, planning and plotting and arranging for the support network that was put in place for these first arriving hijackers in California. There is a direct tie and link to the Saudi government now and the attacks of September 11th. It's indisputable. At least 8, not just those 2.
What's the most important thing that you learned from this document, Terry?
The communications that were going on. So there was this flurry of phone calls between these 8 individuals, Saudi government officials, working with al-Qaeda operatives, speaking with them and having a relationship with them, planning and plotting and putting into place the support network. So it's undeniable now. It's there. The communication between all of them is there. And they no longer will have this cover that the Saudi government was giving them. Some of them were here on a student visa, never attending schools. Some of them were working for they were ghost employees of a Saudi aviation company, never went to work, but were receiving a paycheck. Their paycheck doubled or actually tripled when the hijackers arrived. And the worst one is they were given diplomatic credentials by the Saudi government, and they were involved in the attacks of September 11th.
Tim, talk to me about the decision, which is coming from a Biden executive order to begin the release of this. How significant is that?
It's tremendously significant, and what it shows now is that the Department of Justice as well as the FBI must start to reveal the real truth and the real documents behind what really should never have been kept secret after all these years.
Do you think you'll get more answers?
I do believe we'll get more answers. I know for a fact there'll be more documents forthcoming based on the executive order itself. And we're actually hoping too that potentially we could get criminal charges of murder against several members of the Saudi officials that were involved in this. I mean, you got to remember 9/11 was a mass murder, the greatest mass murder in American history. And there's been no accountability for this. So there should be criminal charges and there should be sanctions to follow regarding that piece of it.
Tim, thank you so much for coming in. Glad to
Thank you
see
for
you
having
doing
me,
well.
John.
And Terry, again, sorry for your loss. I know this is a difficult time, and I appreciate you coming in and joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, can President Biden